So today I'm going to show you how I made the flowers on this layout that I showed you, and here are a few close-ups to remind you what I'm talking about. And so let's get started.
So this time I'm going to make one that has two different levels. I'm going to do it a little bit differently, so I'm going to use two different pieces of paper. So right now I have a piece of paper that's 4 inches by 3 inches and the one that's 3 inches by 3 inches. So what I want to explain about the size of the paper, it really does depend on what size flower that you want. So this is a leftover petal from the other one that I did. So the length of your paper this way, so in this case 4 inches, or in this case 3 inches, is going to determine how long your petals are. So we're gonna end up folding this in half and overlapping it a little bit, so it's gonna be, the petals are gonna be just less than half whatever size you cut. Then I cut them by 3 inches wide, and what that's going to determine is how many little pieces you can get out. So I've cut mine at 1/4 of an inch, so at 3 I should get about 12 out of here across. If they're not exact, then I may get a little bit less. So just keep that in mind when you're making them to determine what size paper that you want. So again, what I'm doing now is 4 by 3 and 3 by 3. We're going to start by adding a piece of double-sided tape to the width of your paper, which is crossways from where you're going to cut later, not along the length, which is going to determine how long your petals are. You want to put your tape on the inside of your flower petal. So keep that in mind when you're putting your paper down, is whatever side that you put on is going to end up being the inside of your petal. So I've got my tape down. Then we're going to take just a pen or a pencil, and we're just going to roll our paper around our pencil just loosely. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything. This is just going to give our paper a little bit of shape so it's easier to tape it together, and just let it come loose. Alright, now we're going to take off the paper on our tape, and we're going to, with this, now that it's rolled, we're going to just glue this on as straight as we can get it so that we make a nice little cylinder. Now, at the seam that we've made here, we're going to fold this at the seam so it's in half here. And make a nice crease, and then you're going to take your bone folder and flatten out the other end so that you make a nice crease there, and so you've got a nice flat thing. So now you can see where the shape of your petals is going to come from, because when you push the edges in, it's going to make your nice little petal shape. So now I'm going to use my paper trimmer to cut these, but you could also just go at it with your scissors and do it, and sometimes when it gets down to the last inch or so, it's easier to just use your scissors to do it. So I'm going to show you this. I'm just lining it up with my 1/4 inch mark here and just putting it on. So then if you wanted to do it with your scissors, all you needed to do was just take one of them and line it up and trim along there. So now I have all of my petals made. So you can see I've got 2 different sizes. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways to put them together. For the first one, I'm going to show you how I did it on my layout, because on my layout I didn't want to have a circle in the background that I could see, so I wanted to just glue them together myself. So I'm going to use some glossy accents, because it dries very quickly when you use paper to paper. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue right here, and I'm using the end that has the double-sided tape on it, so it's a little bit sturdier to glue together. And I'm just going to line these up at the points here and glue them together there. Again, and then you're just going to add a little bit of glue to the next edge. And glue them together. Okay. So now that I have all 8 of my petals together like this, I'm just going to open it up a little bit, add another drop of glue, pull it around, and just glue these 2 together. So I'm going to put my fingers in between the petals here to hold it together to get it to glue. Then you can just sort of move it around with your fingers a little bit to pull the petals apart a little to make it nice and symmetrical if you want. And there you go, that's how I did the flowers on my layout. For the smaller one that's going to go on top of this one, I'm going to use a little circle from a scrap piece of paper. I'm using a 1/2-inch circle here, and I'm just going to cover it with glossy accents again. Again, I'm going to use the part that has the double-sided tape where it's overlapped in the center, and I'm just going to start placing them on my glossy accent covered circle. Trying to keep the end of the petal in as close to the center of my circle as I can. Once you have all of your petals there, you can sort of push them from the ends to make them pop out a little bit more so it fills in any holes that you have. And now you have a flower that has a little base on the back. So what I'm going to do with these two is I'm actually going to layer them on top of each other for my card, just like this. So I'm going to need another circle to go on the top, I think. So we'll glue it on the top. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue here, glue it on here, and because I've glued this one onto the top of it, I'm going to actually add one more circle onto the very bottom of my flower so that I have something really sturdy to attach it to my card. Otherwise, on my layout, what I did is I just used a glue dot because they're fairly see-through so that I could attach it to my layout. I just put a glue dot on the back and it worked perfect. But where this is going to be a card, I'm going to put this circle on here so that I have something to glue it right there. And then I can decorate this flower however I want to. So there you go. You'll notice in my layout that I actually had inset the petals. So I have two different size petals here now. And so what I did is I just added a little bit of glue to the inside of my larger petal on both sides, down by the crease here. Again, where it's folded and overlapped. And I just placed my other petal right inside. Squeeze them together so that they would dry. And then I had a double petal.
And finally, you can see my completed card with some twine added to it, as well as a stamped image and a nestability cap. I hope you enjoyed today's Technique Tuesday.